super crazy strong arm. And it's not utterly massively accurate. However, he's crafty and he knows what to do to maximize the potential that he has on the field by not making major mistakes and knowing when to take chances. So athletically not gifted, he went to Harvard, but he has that huge mind that's allowing him to excel as a quarterback inside the NFL. Does this mean that he could actually stay with a team for more than a year?
I think he can, because here's the thing, Nash. Look at the New York Jets. They have been bombarded with quarterback issues. I mean, this was a team that had Mark Sanchez. That didn't work. They tried to get Tim Tebow. That experiment didn't last a year. Yes, by the way, Tim Tebow was a member of the New York Jets, hard to believe. Geno Smith, my goodness, Geno Smith, that's worked out very well. I think, all right, maybe you're right. Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't what you'd call the elite quarterback. Elite quarterbacks are hard to find. But for what the New York Jets need for their impressive season of being 9-5 and heading for a playoff spot as a wild card, I would have to say definitely Ryan Fitzpatrick for now suits the needs of the New York Jets. And it's been remarkable with what this New York Jet team has accomplished. They have accomplished so much under a first-year head coach in Todd Bowles. It's been fun to watch.
It really has, and I was really writing this whole team off in the preseason as what a freaking disaster when their quarterback got knocked the hell out and with a broken jaw, and Geno Smith was basically sitting there with his beady little too close together eyes saying things like, I don't know what happened, my jaw is now wired shut. And this is not a good situation for a team to start the season in, being down their first-string quarterback due to a locker room altercation. That told me that Todd Bowles had lost the locker room and lost control of the team. And
he's regained it.
I think he has, and he's done a fantastic job of putting together a New York Jet team, which looks like they could be playoff bound depending on how Pittsburgh plays and whether or not they're able, and the Jets are able to beat the Patriots next week. We're not going to go into that just yet, but that is something that's definitely sitting inside that New York Jet locker room as a realistic nightmare for them to have inside their own playoff destiny. We got Kansas City right now on a huge winning streak. What is it now? 8 games in a row?
8 games. 8 games.
Oh, my God. How is that even humanly
You know what?
possible?
Oh, my God. I'll give you an OMG. I know people like to say, oh, my God, in terms of OMG. I'm not like that. I guess I'm from another era. But you want to hear about OMG as far as the Chiefs game with the Ravens? How about those god-awful uniforms with the gold pants?
I know.
Talk about OMG. I mean, those uniforms were just as ugly as the Ravens the last few weeks. Their play. They've been beat up with injuries. They've been a mess. Those uniforms were a complete mess.
You know, I think next year they're going to have to decide whether or not they want to continue doing these color rushes and bizarre, weird jersey things.
Will they be in Madden next year? Yeah, I'm just curious. Will those color rush uniforms be in Madden for Madden?
I imagine a color rush will. I don't think some of these specialty jerseys are. I'm really hoping that the NFL does not do this whole Oregon Duck thing where they have a new uniform for every freaking game that they play. I don't like that. I like to feel like I know what I'm looking at and I'm not surprised by what I'm looking at. And I definitely didn't like this last color rush game of the gold versus the red. It made me think of a McDonald's commercial as I'm watching it. And
it's to sell money.
Yeah, I hate it. It's to sell extra jerseys and all that other stuff.
Give the MVP a golden Big Mac.
Yeah. Oh my God. Such a terrible situation. Hey, Houston was able to beat Indianapolis. Does Indianapolis even stand a prayer at this point?
I don't know. No. Come on, Nash. This is a team that laid a complete goose egg. Probably multiple goose eggs against the Jacksonville Jaguars. You let the Jacksonville Jaguars score 51 points against you. You do not deserve to go to the playoffs. It was this. I'll tell you this, Nash. The last couple of weeks, including yesterday's AFC South Championship game at Lucas Oil Stadium, and yeah, that's what it was. It was the AFC South Championship game. That just has been a reflection of the Colts season from the early portion on. It's been a complete wreck with everybody seeming to be arguing with everybody, going up to the front office, to Jim Irsay, the ownership. With this team in turmoil and with the injuries, with Andrew Luck sustained his injury, listen, the Houston Texans, I'm giving them the crown of AFC South champions. They're not going to the Super Bowl, but they're going to win the AFC South. They won it already.
Yeah, they have. The Houston Texans have won the AFC South already?
I think it is. I would have to say yes.
I
would have to say no, not officially, but come on, let's give them the AFC South already. I mean, based on the mess the Colts have been, the Houston Texans have that division won.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and accept that. However, I'm looking at the playoff picture as it is right now. It is difficult to determine because the Texans are 7-7 and are projected to be that 4th seed at this point. However, inside the AFC, you got other teams like the Colts who are currently 6-8, and yes. Though they just lost to the Texans, I guess mathematically they're still not out of it.
Technically, they can win the division still.
Yes,
technically they can.
It does look like it's a foregone conclusion at this point that
I don't have any confidence.
Happen.
No confidence whatsoever. The Colts. I'll be honest, Nash. With what the Colts have been through the last couple weeks, and for that affect the entire season, taking a look at the Colts' schedule here, they do have the Miami Dolphins next week on the road. Miami, iffy season. Then they play Tennessee. I think they should be able to win the Tennessee game, but I don't know if they can beat the Dolphins.
No,
I don't know if they can. And you know what? Then you know what? If they can't beat the Dolphins, then let's put the AFC South to bed and give it to the Houston Texans.
I concur with that. It does sound like it's pretty much going to be a Houston situation in there. Another team in the AFC South was the Tennessee Titans as they traveled to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots and got smoked 33-16. Everybody's talking about New England, and I'm just not sure how their injury situation is going to shape up come playoff time. I don't see them as being a complete team right now, and I see them as stuttering, even though they were able to beat the Titans by a reasonably large sum. Today they picked up Steven Jackson, who, though he is old, has fresh legs because he hasn't been, beat up throughout the entire season. And this might end up being kind of like a Corey Dillon effect, if you guys remember that. So I like New England still. However, I'm not convinced. They are championship material right now.
Well, here's the thing about the NFL. And this is a survival league in the end, Nash. This is about able to whoever the team that suffers the least fatigue is going to go far. And maybe the New England Patriots are a little bit tired here. I mean, you mentioned Steven Jackson. It can't hurt. I mean, he was with the Atlanta Falcons the last 2 seasons, hasn't played a game, for that matter, a down in the National Football League here in 2015. So you're right about Steven Jackson. He's 32 years old. He's a guy you don't build long-term in terms of any future. In fact, this is just you're using him for the end of the regular season, the playoffs. But the fact is, I'm getting the sense that maybe New England's a little bit tired here. And this is a survival league because of how do you adapt to the later portion of the schedule? How fatigued are you? Everyone's fatigued. I mean, there are teams that suffer injuries. I mean, look at Arizona, Tyrann Mathieu, one of their big weapons on defense, out for the season. This is a tough league to survive in, and we're starting to see that as we head toward the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's just it. Is like with the playoffs looming, it's hard to tell really who is hot. I could think of 3 teams on the NFC, but none on definitely. The AFC, which are like screaming to me, "Hey, AFC champion!" I mean, it used to be the Denver Broncos. It used to be the New England Patriots, and it used to be the Cincinnati Bengals. However, all 3 of those teams have had some injuries which have completely derailed them from their championship quality level. Kansas City, with their long streak, seems to be the most dominant of the AFC contenders right now, but don't look like they're seeded for a very good situation unless they can somehow scoot by Denver to possibly pick up the AFC West, which isn't outside the realm of possibility. Now, two more games that need to be talked
Sure.
about tonight are, one, that Denver Bronco and Pittsburgh Steeler game.
Oh, how great that was.
Oh.
How great that was. And I'll tell you this. Pittsburgh, they almost blew it for themselves.
They did.
Seriously. I do question the play calling. Yes. I know the Steelers won. I know the Steelers were able to pick up a win, but that could have easily been the Denver Broncos win, and they'd be looking good with a win right now. But how is it that you're only a few seconds on the north end of the 2-minute warning? You have to run the football. You have to get first downs and try to milk away the clock. Let Denver use their timeouts. The pressure's on the Broncos. It's on their defense. And yet Ben Roethlisberger rolls the pocket, didn't look sharp with his feet work, and he throws a pick. I got to say this. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they won the game, but they are perhaps the luckiest of all the teams yesterday to have played the pickup of victory.
They are, and it's making me wonder now with the playoffs looming if they're going to try to push Peyton Manning back into that role, as Osweiler actually left the game yesterday. It's not a good situation in Denver. I don't think that Peyton Manning has the potential for one more playoff run. You have to be sharp. You have to be stellar. And the last thing you want to do is go into a playoff run with everybody counting on you, and throwing 5 interceptions. You know, that's a nightmare for a man like Peyton Manning on his way out.
The only problem here is, Nash, and I hate to say this, and Peyton Manning I have great respect for, but the fact is, if Peyton Manning is healthy enough, they're going to go with him in the postseason because of the leadership factor, because of the experience. Maybe not the best postseason experience there is, but because of what Peyton Manning brings in terms of a leadership quality, there's no question about it. That he's healthy enough, he's going to be penciled in as a starter for the Broncos.
He is. The other game I want to talk about is Carolina versus the New York Giants. And I don't really want to talk so much about the comeback and all that other stuff that everybody's already talked about, because it ended up that Carolina still won the game. I want to talk about Josh Norman and Odell Beckham Jr.
Beckham Jr., yes.
I want to say something about that really quick. Odell Beckham Jr., you are a punk. Okay, accept a beating like a man. You are obviously a stellar freaking talent with all the God-given abilities that people just wish that they could have. You were gifted with it, with this uncanny ability to do things that nobody else has ever seen on the field. But do not think just for a second that you deserve to just be good because you're good. People like Josh Norman are going to be out there to try to dethrone you and try to keep you from catching the ball all the time. And it's going to be your job to keep your composure like a professional and not just think that the world deserves to appreciate Odell Beckham Jr. Guess what? You got tested. And that day, you lost the test. Even though you did get that game-tying touchdown, it wouldn't have even been close if you were half the professional that you should have been that day. You were beat, and live with it.
I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you that Odell Beckham Jr. is a punk, but I'll actually go it a step further a few weeks before that.
Okay.
The game against the Washington Redskins, a road game for the Giants. The Redskins win that game. The Giants actually take the lead as Odell Beckham Jr. catches a pass from Eli Manning. What does he do? He taunts the Redskins crowd at FedEx Field. And you know what? The Redskins won that game. So guess what? Punk.
Exactly. He is a total and utter nasty punk. I hope to God the humility was finally there for him. And I hope to God that he accepts the fact that even with all of his talents, there's some days that somebody is going to be better than he is. It's just inevitable to happen from time to time in the NFL. You're going to lose. You're not always going to be the best player on the field every given Sunday.
At least he didn't suffer the Madden curse.
No, he didn't. Unless you consider yesterday that Madden curse, because a lot of people lost a lot of respect for him. His talent has got to have your respect. But his mind, $1 million talent, 10-cent head. That's all I got to say. With that, I'm Nash.
And I'm Frank Awake.
And you're listening to NFL Talk. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
That was NFL Talk Late Night from Jock Journal with the biggest morons in the country. If you aren't asleep already, it might be time to get to bed. However, I'm sure most of you are still looking for me on AshleyMadison.com.